Today's toy time is brought to you by Leanne Rose. Miss Rose teaches elementary school in Mooresville Graded School District. Miss Rose is also the 2019 Beginning Teacher of the Year.
Hi, I am Mrs. Rose. I am a second grade teacher in North Carolina, and I am here to share something that I love, something I'm passionate about, with students all over. So I hope that you'll join me. I'm going to be reading a book. We're going to be talking about some things that happened in the past, some historical context, as well as we're going to be learning about some information about a particular animal, but that's all I'm going to give away. So the way I'm going to introduce what we're going to talk about today is I'm actually going to play some music. And this music may or may not jumpstart your schema. I want you to be thinking about in your brain, have you ever heard this and what is it usually connected to? So listen. What was your guess? Did that music make you think of a certain animal? If you inferred or if you guessed shark, you are right. So there's a reason I want to talk about sharks. So lots of us already have some preconceived notions, some opinions about sharks. And I want you to think about that right now. I want you to think about, do you like sharks? Do you think they're scary? Do you think they're mean? Do you think they're horrible? Do you think they're awesome? Do you think they're beautiful? Whatever you think. I want you to think about it. I want you to hold it in your brain. I want you to hold it in your brain until the very end of our lesson, okay? So the book I'm going to read to you today is called Shark Lady. It's the true story of about how Eugene Clark became the ocean's most fearless scientist. She was without fear about science and her pursuit of her passion. And that's something that's very admirable, and I'd like to talk more about. Let's get started. It was Saturday, and Eugene wanted to stay at the aquarium forever. She wanted to smell the damp, salty air and stare at the glittery rainbow of fish. She wanted to keep watching her favorite animals. Her favorite animals were the sharks. So I can tell that this aquarium is a saltwater aquarium because it talks about the damp, salty air. So we can guess that it's probably lots of ocean animals. And indeed, her favorite animal is the sharks. Eugene pretended that she was walking on the bottom of the sea and what it would be like to swim with her sharks, to breathe underwater with gills of her own. More than anything, she wanted to find out. So look in her imaginary world. She has sharks all over. When summer came, Eugene's mother took her to swim at the beach in Atlantic City. Stuffing sticky gum into her ears to keep the water out, Eugene dove down, 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 down. The salt stung her eyes, but she didn't want to miss a single fish. Constellations of sea stars speckled the pebbled sand. She imagined a silvery fin standing strong on the back of her head, slicing through the ocean current. Notice how when I'm reading with expression. I don't sound like a robot. It's a great thing that readers do. As you're reading at home, work on that. To others, sharks were ugly and scary, but Eugene knew that they were beautiful. As she glided through the cool water, she wished everyone could see sharks through her eyes. But the sharks were only in her mind for now. Eugene decided to learn everything she could about them. So she dove. So she is actually getting to do her own research here. If we weren't able to be at the ocean and you wanted to learn about sharks, I wonder what we could do to research more. Think about some of the technology we have available. We could go to Pebble Go. We could go on to Google with our parents' help and learn more about something we're interested in. But she was actually able to go into the ocean. This time, she dove into books as well. Whale sharks, nurse sharks, tiger sharks, lemon sharks. Eugene wanted to know about them all. She also joined the Queens County Aquarium Society as their youngest member. Eugene's notebook filled with sharks. They swam in her daydreams and on the margins of her paper. I like this illustration too because the sharks are out swimming in the air in her imagination. At home, Eugene's mother surprised her with an aquarium of her own. A 15-gallon tank was much too small for sharks, but Eugene saved her allowance to buy guppies, clownfish, and coral reef snails. It felt as big as an ocean in her room. Think about that. It felt as big as an ocean. Do you think it really was as big as an ocean? It's probably figurative language, and the author is actually using a metaphor here. As big as an ocean. She's comparing two things. Their small apartment became an aquarium, a laboratory, and a sanctuary. So I like this page because the illustrator has included a text feature over here and is labeling the different types of fish that she was able to then put into her aquarium. Look how happy she is. As she grew older, many were still telling Eugene what to do. Forget those sharks. Be a secretary. Be a housewife. Eugene wanted to study zoology, but her professors thought that women weren't smart enough to be scientists or brave enough to explore the oceans. And they said sharks were mindless monsters. So I want to talk about this for a second. So this book, this setting is set a long time ago. So a long time ago, there were different expectations for women than it is now. They weren't expecting her to be able to do anything, to be a scientist, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a teacher. They were telling her, someone else was telling her what to do. They told her, let me go back to the text. Forget the sharks, be a secretary, be a housewife, forget the animals. You are not smart enough to be a scientist. You are not brave enough to explore the oceans. So other people are telling her what to do, but let's see what character traits she uses to persist through adversity. Adversity means challenges. But Eugene knew better. Her dream was as big as a whale shark. So again, Eugene dove. One time she dove into the ocean. The other time she dove into some good books. Let's see where she dives next. She plunged into every course she could. Her laboratory became her home. From sunrise to sunset, she studied how fishes grow, how they behave, and how they were put together on the inside and on the out. Despite all of the people who didn't believe in her, Eugene was becoming one of the smartest students in her entire field. Even after she earned her degree, still many people doubted her. So even though she proved herself, she went to college, she got her degrees, people were still like, not real sure about her. And what a shame. The reason that they're doubting her is because of her gender. Is that something that we should be doing? Judging people on their gender? She's going to prove them wrong, that's right. But Eugene's work was just beginning. Eager to make discoveries of her own, Eugene finally dove into the open ocean. In the Red Sea, Eugene collected hundreds of fish, including 3 new species that had not been discovered ever before. She discovered the Red Sea sand diver, the barrel Exenia pipefish, and the volcano triple fin. And I'll show you down here. On a research mission exploring the Palua Islands, Eugene was diving alone when she encountered her first ever wild shark. But she wasn't afraid. Instead, she thought of it as beautiful. So this is her doing her own research. And down here, again, the illustrator included 3 separate pictures of what she has. And then down here, if you look really close, I like this a lot. It gives us their normal name as well as their scientific name. The scientific name is kind of in italics, or just kind of like slanty writing. That helps the reader know what's going on. In Isilia Muris, she dispelled the myths that sharks keep moving to stay alive when she swam through dark caves and, still and silent, was full of resting sharks. So what that means is there was this myth that sharks had to keep moving all the time to keep breathing, getting the oxygen in the water through their gills so they can breathe in the water. But for the first time, she was brave enough to go into a cave, and there were resting sharks just resting there. Eugene's daring heart grew bolder with each dive. Soon they became to call her the Shark Lady. Eugene had proven she was smart enough to be a scientist and brave enough to explore the oceans. So even though others doubted her, she is proving them wrong, because thankfully she had pride and she believed in herself, which is one of the best things we can do. As her courage grew, she began to love and understand her beloved sharks more and more. But she never forgot how many still believed that sharks were mindless killers. Because of their scary reputation, humans were hunting sharks all over the world. Eugene knew that sharks weren't stupid and they weren't mean. She was determined. Ooh, such a good word. She was determined to prove everyone wrong because she knew the truth. Eugene fished through her mind. Eugene fished through her mind. She's thinking and sorting through her mind and devised a brilliant experiment, because that's what scientists do. We got to figure it out, plan, scientific method, and test it. She could train a shark the way a person trains a dog. Were sharks much smarter than anyone knows? So after this testing, they were. Eugene was the first scientist in the world to train sharks, and even learned that they could remember their training for at least 2 months after. So not only were they able to learn something new, they were able to retain it for a long time. This is huge compared to thinking that sharks were mindless monsters. Oh, and in this picture, if you can see, she's training them to push the button, and then they get a treat on this side. So the sharks go back and forth, and she's training them that when they do this, they get a reward, and that reward is food, which is very motivating for animals. Think about if you have a dog or a cat or a fish or a bird, if they are rewarded or if they're excited by food, possibly. And there's a text-to-self connection. Sharks were not mindless killers. Sharks were beautiful. Sharks were smart. They deserved to be studied. They deserved to be protected. And they deserved to be loved. And Eugene's dream was now a dream come true. And that is the end of our story. In the back here, there's another text feature. It's called Shark Bites, which is like fun shark tidbits. So that's kind of like a text box, fun facts, and interesting things. If we had time, I would love to go through more. And also on the next page, it includes another nonfiction text feature, and it's a timeline. It shows us the sequence in which she did things. It says first, of course, that she was born. Then it talked about when she earned her bachelor's in the arts of zoology. It also talks about when she earns her master's degree. When she publishes her first book. So not only is she learning and talking to other people, but she's also putting it into books to then share with others, to share her knowledge, her passion of sharks with others, which is really cool. She's studying different sandfish. She becomes a professor. She's writing columns. We could go on and on through her incredible life of what she did as a female scientist a long time ago. This was a different time, but she persisted through it all. That was the character trait I wanted you to think about, was persistence. Persisting through even when something's a little bit hard. So I hope you enjoyed my book. It's called Shark Lady. So at the beginning, I bet lots of us thought that sharks were big, mean, scary. When you hear that music, da-dun, da-dun, lots of people get scared and they get worried that there's a shark and they think the sharks are out to get people. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever felt like that? But this woman saw the world through a slightly different lens. She saw these animals that were misunderstood as big, mean, mindless. I want you to think to yourself, have you ever been misunderstood? Have you ever felt like someone didn't understand you? And so Eugene was able to be the shark's advocate. Animals aren't able to tell humans what they need. It takes someone special to study them and learn about them to understand what their needs are and what they're capable of, and that they deserve protection. Because like it said in the book, a long time people thought we just need to kill all the sharks in the entire world without fully thinking about there's a life cycle and what would life be without sharks in our world. And she was the advocate. She was the one that stood up and said, no, sharks are smart. Sharks are curious. Sharks are wonderful. We need them in our world. And she has made great strides to make sure that they're protected in our oceans. So she made some really cool stuff happen. Oh, one other thing I wanted to ask. So this is a nonfiction text, right? It's a real text about a real person's life. Oftentimes with nonfiction texts, there's pictures because it's real. But this is a real story about a real person, but it's all illustrated. So that's something really unique about this story, is that they chose to illustrate it. They didn't take pictures of her life. We're able to go look at pictures of what she really looks like, but I really like that they chose to illustrate it, to show us underwater, to show us her imagination about how she felt like when she was at the museum, she was actually walking around with sharks. We were able to get kind of a more creative spin on her inner world rather than just a picture of what's happening on the outside. So I thought that was really cool, and I hope you enjoyed that as well. So I hope you liked my story. And I hope that your opinions might have changed. Your point of view about sharks could have changed. We know that the author thinks that Eugene and sharks are pretty cool, but it's important for you to think about, what do you think about sharks? What do you think about Eugene as a powerful, fearless female scientist? All right, and as a fun little extension activity, if you have time, I thought that we could draw a shark together. And after we draw our shark, we're going to write some words about things we feel about sharks, about a type of animal that was often misunderstood, but it took someone being an advocate for others to now understand more about them. So I would like you to get some type of writing utensil. It could be a crayon, it could be a pen, it could be a marker, it could be a pencil, whatever you choose. And I'd also like you to grab a piece of paper. It can be lined, something out of even like a notebook, or if you have it, a plain white piece of paper. Whatever you choose, it's gonna work either way. I'm going to put it on my clipboard so I can show you. So step one is quite simple. In the center of your page, you are going to draw a fun arch. Not perfect, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna draw one line and move on. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw the tip of his nose. So we're going to kind of round it out a little bit. Then we're going to add in a mouth. You can start kind of seeing it a little bit. Then we're going to add in our fin, his like arm fin. There. And the reason we did this first is because now when we connect our lines, we're actually going to make sure that the fin stays out so it looks continuous. One of the best parts is we get to add that back dorsal fin. And then actually, if you can, add a little fin for the other side. I just added a little tiny bit right there. If you would like, you can add a big eyeball. It can look cartoon however you like. I know that my students have a certain style they like to draw, and that's fine. Little eyeball. You can add your gills. Oh my word. And of course, we gotta add the tail. Let's see. We go up high, not quite so high, and connect them. Okay. Of course we need the tail. So I did this one arch a little bit higher than this bottom one, and then I connected them in the middle kind of with a V shape. So from here you have some options. You could add some teeth if you want to. You can add angry eyes if you think sharks are still mean. Or if you want to, like me, I'm gonna add a little dimple and make him look like he's smiling. Because sharks are not always quite what they seem. Just like, have you ever heard the saying, don't judge a book by its cover? Just because sharks look like they're mindless, look like they're mean, they might be just a little misunderstood. Just like you might feel you're misunderstood sometimes. I feel like I'm misunderstood sometimes. That's a normal human condition, emotion that we might feel. So from here, of course, you may decorate it if you have crayons or colored pencils or whatever you want to do. You may color, you may name them, whatever you want to do. You might want to even sing a little song about some baby sharks. And then I want you to write some words down that describe sharks. Now that we understand a little bit more about them, thanks to Eugene Clark. Thanks to the ocean's most fearless scientist and the things she did for our world. All right, I just wrote 3 little phrases here. I said that sharks are smart. I said that sharks are curious and sharks are unique. I also added the phrase, they're able to learn. So that shows that they have more intelligence than we previously thought without Eugene's experiments. As well as I said that they are worthy of being protected. Like I said a long time ago, people just thought that sharks should be killed. They shouldn't be in our oceans. They're a danger to humans. We need to get rid of them. And she proved otherwise, and she proved that they are worthy of protection. And of course, they deserve to live on our earth because they were here before us, and we are just here to help take care of our earth. Alrighty, so that's our directed drawing. You may color it, you may decorate it. I hope you keep it, and remember the lessons that we learned and talked about our personal points of view if they changed from new information, as well as learning about a pretty impressive historical woman, as well as learning a little bit about sharks. Kind of a fun thing to do. I hope, once again, that you're staying safe, you're having fun, you're staying curious, you're learning, and please know that all of your teachers miss you. We wish you could be with us, but we persist, just like Eugene does, and we will get through this, and we hope to see you very soon. Thanks so much for spending some time with me. Keep learning.